And we ought to be live. Hello, YouTube. This is BUB'S Comics coming at you with the No Faces comic chat. Tonight we are the Miscut cover creatures. You may or may not remember, but last week we had tasked DS Comics with coming up with a suitable name for the group this week. And, DS Comics, you want to tell us how that went?
Yeah, that went awesome, actually. I totally forgot about it until a couple hours ago when you asked me, and I was like, man, I have no idea. Go ahead and come up with one. Yeah, I thought it went very smoothly from my end.
And Bob's been practicing it again.
I dropped the ball there. I totally forgot to come up with the name, and so sorry about that. But yours are always good, man. You always come up with great names.
Oh no, you got tasked with it because last week you didn't like the name because you didn't consider yourself a dollar bin buster.
All right, well, I like the Miscut title, so back on track with y'all.
Tonight we have, of course, DS Comics and Metarog, and we also have JPL Flash Comics and Geekdom from the UK. Say hey.
Hello from England.
Lovely. I'm glad you could stay awake to play with us tonight.
Ah, mate, you know I'm always up for this. I love it. Absolutely love it. Made you a little Wolverine display.
Oh, I love it. That's awesome. Who's that weird guy in the red underwear?
Oh, this guy. What do you mean this guy? Or his little dwarf friend?
Yeah. The little guy behind him. I like him.
I had to have Superman in.
I think that's Bob last Halloween. I think that's how.
Hey, I've gone as Superman like 3 times for Halloween.
Oh, I believe it.
Oh yeah, I've gone to a couple of Comic Cons. I usually do like a Superman as Clark Kent. So I go because I already dress in like shirt and tie generally anyway. So I was wearing a kind of an open shirt and tie, and I had a nice tight Superman shirt on. Usually whatever my last summer Superman shirt is, and it's a little tight the next summer. So I'll wear that to the con, and I'll like have the Superman curl and a pair of glasses, like a fake pair of glasses, and the shirt open. So it gets pretty good response most of the time. Last year, my wife went as Lois Lane, so we were both dressed up. Yeah, we did that for. There was a Valentine's Day con last year, and we went to like the Valentine's Day dance and got a room at the hotel, and it was big fun. All right, and
Superman box. Did you see that? It was awesome.
Yes, I really like that. They had 2 of them, didn't they?
Sweet.
And we also have the Crimson Comic. Say hello.
Hey, everybody.
We're full tonight, aren't we?
You got to be quicker than that, Ryan, with that name like that.
Yeah, right.
You got to be. Here we have Crimson Comic. Here.
Use the flash to your advantage.
There you go. There you go.
So we have 2 people with Flash in their name tonight.
Oh yeah.
I've been meaning to ask you, JPL, what is the Flash refer to? Because I don't think I've ever seen you show a Flash comic. So what's
that is very, very true. I was waiting for someone to ask me that.
Well, you're welcome. What did I win?
Tonight's no prize.
Oh, my favorite.
Ooh,
Yeah, I'll post it to you.
Easy to ship. I'll split shipping with you.
There we go. Yeah. No, it actually used to be my nickname at work, and I've just used it all the time.
Oh, nice.
So
were you a dishwasher or?
I actually was when I was younger.
Dancer or what? Oh, was it? Okay.
When I was younger, about 13, 14, and I had that name. So
as long as you were doing the full Monty somewhere, I'm good with it.
Yeah, I don't mean flashing that way.
No. In the UK, they only do a partial Monty because they're quite conservative.
I don't know. We did do the full Monty film. That was quite successful over here.
Mm-hmm.
Robbie Coltrane.
That's one of DS's favorites.
Yeah, I've actually never seen that movie.
The full Monty.
I'm not sure it was quite the big hit here, maybe as it was over in the UK, but
Yeah, it was a massive hit here.
It was a big hit here. Yeah,
Was
it was.
it? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Awesome. Well, so we know now why we have Flash in the name of JPL Flash. And I'm telling you, we can end the show right now, and we've already been fun and informative.
Suspense done.
So. Awesome. Let's take a look. I'm trying to remember what even our topics were tonight because I worked so hard on getting them ready. I just can't remember what they were. Yeah, I obsessed over it for minutes.
Which version of our favorite characters are our favorites? You know,
is that Roger? Roger, are you here?
Yeah.
I thought you were on vacation.
I emailed you about that.
Oh, I have everything sent directly to spam. I don't.
Oh my god.
Oh, it's good to have you, Roger. Next time, say something so we know you're here.
Monty was me.
Oh, it was you.
What, you did the full Monty?
How many people would pull Monty on here but me? Nobody. You think DS is gonna pull Monty? No way.
He might.
I don't even know what a full Monty is. So
See, I told you that's a straight slice.
I'll tell you, DS. It's
right.
double a half Monty. You
Well,
take a
that
half
makes
Monty
sense.
and you double it. Mm-hmm.
It's an English breakfast.
Sausage and crumpets.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I never thought we'd go down this path today. This is totally a surprise. All right.
Sorry.
Roger, is that you? Where'd you get here?
Neither was Brit, so
All
just
right.
bring the tone down.
I tell you, man. Hey, let me tell you, Bub. When the memory starts going, you become Metarog. All right. So you don't want to do that.
Hey, that would be an upgrade. You kidding me? You know more than you'll forget. Probably, I would hope.
You only remember comics and old westerns. That's it.
Well, that'd be all right. That sounds like a pretty good pension right there. I'd take that.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
All right, so we got. Let's talk about publishing companies and how they changed over the years. This was kind of brought about because DS was so gracious. He's always willing to help me spend my money. He's really, really good about stuff like that. And in the middle of the night when I'm most vulnerable, he'll send me a text message with an eBay link that immediately thereafter I am the highest bidder on. So he had sent me a link to a eBay listing for, and I'll say it because if somebody outbids me, it would be helpful. I'd save me some money. He had sent me a link to an Atlas comic, Marvel Tales 116. And I had not seen this one before, but basically what it is it's a Werewolf by Night story, but it's not, Jack Russell, the Werewolf by Night character, but it is the first, they tried to say in the listing that it's the first appearance of Werewolf by Night in a Marvel comic. I think that's stretching it on every level. Like, it's not technically even Marvel yet. So, but they had, I would say at the bottom of the comic, it says Werewolf by Night it's in quotes. So that obviously means that that's a story that they're going with. And on the cover, there's a small depiction of like a werewolf scene of, and it's pretty interesting comic. So of course I immediately bid on it. I hope I get outbid. But in the meantime, it kind of got me thinking, these publishing companies have changed quite a bit over the years. And I know you guys have a lot of experience with this, right? And some of the newer collectors, maybe like Crimson Comic, I think Crimson Comic, you mostly collect trades now to read your stories, don't you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if I'm reading it, I'm going to try to get it in some form of a collected edition.
Yeah. So when you're reading like that, it can kind of present a character in only one grouping of stories, right? It's very contained and confined. But you see a lot of people go back to like the older comics and say, well, I'm looking for the first appearance. Well, there's a first Golden Age appearance. There's a first Silver Age appearance. I featured a book today that was the first Bronze Age appearance of a character. So let's talk a little bit about how those publishing companies have changed and how they've changed the characters along with them. Roger, we'll start with you. Do you want to explain a little bit about the kind of Atlas Marvel takeover and how that went down?
Well, yeah, sure. Of course, Marvel started back in the late 1930s, 1938, I believe. And of course, when they started pre-war, the characters were much more simplistic. It was, good versus evil. It was us versus them. United States versus at that time you can either say it was the Nazis or the more progressive political regimes, but the stories were very simplistic. There were mainline characters, and most of them were based upon patriotic themes. Captain America, Miss America, Human Torch, Samaritan. They had ties to other things, but the themes were overarching. So everybody, I'm talking about the United States now. Everybody could relate to these characters because they knew that they were fighting for for good versus evil. And that progressed through the war times, when we're talking about, when Axis powers, we had the Japanese, and those were portrayed, stereotypically. We had the Germans, who were portrayed obviously as, imperialistic and as, evil and as, vicious. And the Italians, to a lower degree, were just kind of like, we'll take care of them later, But that's the Axis powers through the 40s. And then later, after the war, of course, then they had to sort of change gears. And in the 50s, they went to more mystery, more science fiction, and horror themes, like Marvel Tales. They originally had a whole nother scheme, but when they started, up and through when it changed hands into just in the 60s, they escalated the theme, through more mysterious comics, more something to appeal to a more broad audience of the 50s, because that's the Atom Age. We're talking about, the Red Scare. We're talking about now that the communists are the main protagonists. So you would see, you would see a lot of stories, and the superheroes were kind of being phased out, but you would see a lot of stories.
Is that during the same time as the weird fantasy books were coming out? Yeah,
well, you're talking about EC.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Probably DS can tell you better about those than I can, but and Marvel, they had some horror semi-themed, but they didn't really get into the hardcore horror. Notice that a lot of you don't see, even DS, probably you don't see a lot of people chasing after Marvel horror, because there just isn't a whole lot of it. It's more mystery. It's more superhero-esque kind of themes, more suspense, crime, things like that. And then at that point, they changed into, obviously when they rebooted into the superhero era in the early 60s, and that's, everybody knows that. Stan Lee and Ditko and those folks started a whole new direction after they had found that the sales were just not up, to par. And so they tried a whole new direction. And, there's more to it than that, because Marvel, remember, couldn't distribute their own books. They had to look to DC to give them spots. And so that's why they had to sort of pick and choose. They could only get, I think, 8 titles a month or something like that at the beginning.
Wow. Cool. So around what time would you say, I guess, and that's a mix between the Golden Age and it would stop short of Silver, wouldn't it?
Yeah, there's a transitional phase. I call it, a lot of people call it the Atom Age. It's between the late 40s and the late 50s. And again, that it's sort of a mesh. There's not really a clear transition there, but that's when the stories started going away from superheroes and more to anthologies and more toward one shots, things like that, rather than a coherent story arc between a character and a story. So you would have, just random characters in themed comics, like as I was saying, like Marvel Tales. Most of them they had some horror elements, but a lot of them were more toned down, more mystery, more just monster theme, things like that. Versus the Captain America, which had consistent themes of war and some crime, but mostly war presentations.
Now, DS Comics, I know that you're a resident PCH pre-code horror aficionado here. So there are some pre-code, and we're talking early 50s, of course. There are some pre-code superhero titles as well, not just war and the macabre, aren't there?
Well, yeah, some of the superheroes were completely eliminated after World War II because there really just wasn't a market for them anymore. Because, like Metarog was saying, they were basically fighting Nazis, the Japanese. You'd have the occasional Mussolini appearance in a story, but a lot of them went by the wayside. Some of them stuck because they were just super popular, like Captain America. But even Captain America in the late 40s to early 50s. Switched over to some horror type themed books, and those are pretty collectible because there were not a lot of them printed as compared to other Captain America comics, and they just weren't as collectible even back then when people weren't even collecting comics. So some of the Captain America switched over and had some horror themed stuff in there, and it's sort of a gray area like Roger was talking about. There's World War II stuff, and then after that a lot of comics switched over to horror themed and sci-fi themed, and there was some Western and some romance and stuff. And then the Comics Code Authority essentially ended the Golden Age. That's sort of generally recognized as the marker that ends the Golden Age. And then, from 1954, 55 to like 1960-ish, that's like the Atom Age. That's what I call the Atom Age. There's a lot of overlap and a lot of gray area, but in that area, with regards to Marvel, like Roger was saying, they didn't do a lot of horror stuff, but they had like Marvel Tales, and some of those are collectible from like a pre-code horror collector standpoint. And I think there's actually 2 volumes of Marvel Tales as well. I'm not positive on that. But they had their Atlas line, which was doing some horror themed stuff. And there really wasn't a need or a demand for superheroes, so they were just trying other things. And Marvel, it wasn't Marvel at the time, but through Atlas, they put out some stuff that was not super horrific, like some of the other publishers did. And Marvel almost went under. I mean, they were almost pretty much out of business until they brought back the superheroes. And in the 60s, Marvel was sort of reborn. And, they're the monster in comics that they are today and have been for the last several decades. But Marvel almost went out of business entirely because they really didn't have a product anymore, because they had the superheroes, especially Captain America, the Timely comics, Marvel Mystery Comics, and the stuff in the 40s. So yeah, I don't know if I answered your question there, but just rambling a little bit about it.
No, absolutely. Because when you look at that gap that represented the war, or the end of the war even, what you find now are this reinterest, or I don't guess it ever really died, but this idea that people are going back to the roots of superheroes, and wanting to learn more about them. And, then people start finding kind of their favorite version of a superhero throughout time. For instance, Crimson Comic, you have, I assume, a favorite version of the Flash, right? So who would be your favorite version of the Flash?
Let's see. I mean, Barry Allen's probably my favorite. He's definitely what I've read most, but he's got so much history with just his character. I really like his early sci-fi stuff because, like you were saying early on, and a lot of his Silver Age stuff, it was very science fiction-y with him like hopping dimensions and going back and forth in time. And because I guess it was a little easier to do when you don't have as big of a continuity as DC does nowadays. So you kind of have to limit that. But definitely that older Silver Age, it's really goofy too if you go back and read it. It's really cheesy and goofy, but it's got a certain charm to it, I think. I really like old sci-fi in general, so that old sci-fi with the Flash really I really like. And I mean the current run with Barry Allen right now, Joshua Williamson's writing it. It's really good too. I like it when he has like a mentee like Kid Flash. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And they're kind of really starting to explore that more in this current run, and it's getting really good. And I like how he has that, like he kind of becomes like a cheesy dad with all his like flashback and stuff like that. But yeah.
So when you go back, so that's Silver Age Flash then, right? Barry Allen will be Silver Age Flash. Who's the Golden Age Flash? Is that Garrick?
Yeah, Jay Garrick.
Jay Garrick.
And when did he first come about?
Well, he started in Flash Comics in the Golden Age. So he was in Flash Comics 1. And his is like, I mean, his stories aren't as fleshed out. He kind of doesn't have as much of a personality as some of the later stuff. I mean, I haven't read much other Golden Age stuff than his, but he's very much kind of more of a jock than Barry Allen. Yeah. Barry Allen's much nerdier, more with because he's a forensic scientist, but I mean, I think the Flash Comics opens up with him talking about him playing football in college, and he definitely is more of a, I don't know, go-getter, I guess. He's just out there, whereas I feel like Barry questions himself a little more, especially later on. He starts to just become more self-aware, I guess, of him and his actions, and always trying to run, which makes it I really like his relationship with Jay Garrick. I think when there's stories with them, like the Flash of Two Worlds and some others later, when they kind of start fleshing out their relationship, he definitely becomes like a father figure to him and mentors him a lot. So
that's cool. JPL Flash, you of course, being a huge Superman fan, you've got to be able to appreciate the differences Superman's made, of course, as more or less starting comics, and then or at least the superhero comics, and then transitioning through the years. How do you see the different versions of Superman as he's changed, as the publishing companies morphed and kind of changed towards what people were looking to read?
Yeah, I mean, in the 40s, I mean, obviously, it was like Captain America. You know, all the covers always had him fighting Nazis and so on. And when he was first created in the 30s, he was fighting like mob bosses and stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then in the 50s, he sort of like, he became that kind of like 50s era, you know, where comic books started becoming more about romance and stuff. You know what I mean, don't you?
Yeah.
They kind of changed him to be more like, it was more Lois Lane and the Superman family.
Yeah.
Yeah, you agree with me, Roger. You know what I mean, don't you?
Very family-oriented kind of stories, kind of whimsical, kind of lighthearted. Yeah. There wasn't a lot of world, and danger stories, things like that.
Yeah, it was very like World's Finest comics as well. When he teamed up with Batman, it was very whimsical, to use your word.
Correct. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then, obviously, with the rise of Marvel in the 60s, they changed him back to being what he was like, making more superhero-ish to combat with Marvel, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds like it's almost more of a reaction to the villains that they're looking to portray at the time. Those types of stories that you're looking to tell than it is what the superhero is doing. It's more like, well, who's he going to fight? Is he going to fight, some gangsters in the street? Is he going to fight, super human beings from other planets? Or is he just going to sit around and fall? Yeah, exactly. He's going to fall in love with Lois all over again, you know?
Yeah, when it came to like the Superman and Batman that JPL was referencing, I think there was really just not a lot of villains, and Superman comics in the 50s, it sort of just floundered a little bit without really an identity of what it was. Batman had some really kick-ass villains right from the start. You know, the Scarecrow, Riddler, Joker, you know, like that. And in Superman, I mean, some of his villains, early villains, was Lex Luthor, who's just sort of a regular dude. He's just a criminal mastermind. And then, you know, they would have like Tweedledee and Tweedledum and Mr. Mix-It-Plick. You know, they're just kind of like
Toy Man, you know.
Yeah, just sort of like goofy villains because after the Nazis and the Japanese were gone as villains, Superman and Batman didn't really have anyone to fight. But Superman was almost 100% dependent on World War II there for a while for stories. Batman, not as much, although heavily involved as well. But Superman, really in the 50s, those stories take a lot of just oddball turns in between an early 30s, 40s Superman, and then you get into like the 60s Superman. In the middle there, it's sort of like a goofy, cartoony, a really odd, unique sort of style for a superhero as big as Superman. It was like they didn't know what to do with him, and that didn't happen to a lot of other superheroes, especially of that magnitude at the time.
Yeah, that's why I prefer the 80s relaunch of him.
Yeah, agreed.
That's my favorite version of him. And that is the version they brought back in Rebirth as well recently.
Yeah. I mean, the 70s version has, to me, a certain charm to it.
Yeah.
Because he would fight villains that were at least portraying to be dangerous to others, at least.
Well, like Brainiac came around in the 50s, didn't he?
Yeah, well, yeah, right. But at least he had some kind of danger involved, right? Like, like he would fight, for example, you know, a Brainiac who had the ability to at least, you know, give him a fight. I mean, nobody could give him a fight physically unless you had kryptonite. But if you could find out his weaknesses through his relationships, then you could get to him. And that's the kind of things that Lex Luthor and Brainiac, that was a recurring theme. That if they could get to the people he loved, you know, then they could get to him.
Yeah, totally. Totally.
Yeah, I definitely think the 80s Superman, I'm not a huge Superman fan. You know, I just know it as being a comic fan and growing up around that time. But I definitely agree with you, JPL. The 80s Superman is definitely the coolest. And I think in the 80s, they changed the way they were handling Superman and Batman, and both of them took on much cooler personas and stories and story elements. The whole idea of it, when I think of Superman and Batman, the 80s is where I'm really excited about those two characters, which I don't collect either one heavily at all, but if I had to like dive into a decade and go after either one of them, it would be the 80s probably for both of those.
Talking about 80s Batman, I had a nice pickup today.
Year one. That's the year one.
It is.
Frank Miller.
Yep, I was going to save it for my next haul video, but
we got a sneak preview.
Nice.
Sneak preview. Yep, Martha.
Yeah, you had the two giants. You had two giants to revamp the, you know, post-crisis. You had Frank Miller on Batman, John Byrne on Superman. You know,
George Perez and Wonder Woman as well.
Well, you didn't let me finish that one. Sorry.
Rule number one, JPL Flash: always make sure that Roger is talking. Yeah, don't.
I was going to get to it. I was going to get to that one.
Right over you.
You know, the two
puddle yourself.
You had those two giants, you know, take on the two male, and then of course you had George Perez on Wonder Woman, which was to me just actually the better of the three, if you ask me.
I agree.
Was the George Perez and the one, because the Wonder Woman, if you think Superman and Batman were in the tank, Wonder Woman hadn't had an identity forever. And so when George Perez took her, I mean, you know, not only are we talking about art, he did he was in on the direction, on the plotting, on all aspects of Wonder Woman. And if it wasn't for him, Wonder Woman probably wouldn't even be in movies today.
That's what I said the other day. He literally created the.
It must be true.
He created the mythos that is now.
Well, and I think the Batman we see today is definitely when Frank Miller did the Dark Knight Returns series in '86, that was like flipping a switch on Batman, and it automatically made him into this, like, the stories took a really dark turn. You know, Miller gives everything sort of a dark overtone to it. But ever since then, Batman, even the Batman movies that have come out recently, are the Frank Miller style Batman. So yeah, all three of those are huge influences on those characters that persist to today. Yeah.
Yeah, good. Awesome. Actually, very good perception there. And
yeah,
the fact that, you know, Batman. I mean, I was never a big fan of Batman to begin with, so I'm you can contradict me here, but Batman during the 70s, during the 60s, he had some pretty good. You know, because, you know, you had Neil Adams, you had Ra's al Ghul, you had a lot of Joker, but during the 70s, you were fighting like Ten-Eyed Man, you know, just another one of these goofy villains that nobody cared about, and they were giving him a heck of a hard time. I mean, Batman could have taken the Ten-Eyed Man with the tip of his cape, you know, and, and he was giving him a hard time. You know, Killer Croc, you know, but if Frank Miller really just, when he took him to that future state, and now we're talking about the ingrained kind of hatred that he has of Superman, that really, like you said, flipped a switch, and then everything from then on was just classic stuff.
And I don't think Batman even ever held a gun until the 80s.
Well, he did back in the 30s once or twice, but yeah,
he did in an early strip, didn't he?
Well, he's got that one cover from the 40s where he's got that Gatling gun.
Oh yeah, that's the war, but that was for war bonds,
right? That was war purposes. But I mean, he was always anti-gun, and he had his little gadgets and everything, and he would never really, you know, none of these guys would kill anyone.
Well, Superman did. Superman threw a guy out a window.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, but they never show him fall, so he might have landed in a truck full of pillows. We don't know.
I guess he could have. It could have been like that scene from Lethal Weapon or something, but you know.
Yeah. Oh man, good stuff. Hey, let's recognize some people in the chat while we're going. Roger usually does that, but he must be sleeping or something. I haven't heard from him all night. So. Let's see. Who do we got?
I feel like Rodney Dangerfield. I got no respect around here.
This isn't the only place that happens. We got
this is life here. Are you kidding me?
We got JPL Flash Comics Geekdom in the chat. Thank you for joining us, JPL.
Thank you, Dave, for being in the chat.
You will. Go to Geeks, Tats Comics, Simon Comics. Let's see. Just put that anywhere.
We got Steve from Carlton 66. Hey, Steve, how you doing? Good to see you.
We got to go to Geeks. I'm not sure which geek we have, but we're going to go to them anyway. We got HME3. Let's see. Lady Pop Hunter. Is it Jack? Okay.
Yeah.
We got Comic Geek McD. Is that your dynamic duo partner?
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's pretty good. Now I'm going to save this live on this show too. I'm hoping to have coined the phrase. They call themselves the British Dynamic Duo, but I want them to be called BDD.
That's the name now.
This show has really taken a turn. The full-on T and the double Ds. I mean, it's just gone right off the rails.
And we got Count Von Strange the fourth. Silver Age Dave is listening and running. Hey Silver, don't trip. We got Comic Bags 22. We got let's see it. We've got a bunch. Thank Pope Cerebrus the first. Thank you all for joining us and being part of the chat. Looks like Simon had a question. I think he was wanting to know about Black Magic Comics. Is that right?
Of course, because he's the Joe Simon fan.
Oh, well, let's talk a little bit about that. Why not? We'll take a few requests.
Yeah, he just wants us to confirm that Joe Simon is one of the best ever. Hey, you don't have to convince me. I'm 100% behind him.
Well, why don't you bring the rest of us with you? And
Black Magic. I'm assuming he's talking about the original series from Prize, which was a horror anthology that Jack Kirby and Joe Simon did most of them, I do believe. And just got some really marvelous Joe Simon covers. I mean, DS, do you have any of those?
I don't have any of those, but I'm familiar with them. I mean, those are in the area of stuff that I'm always checking out and researching and collecting. I just don't have any of those. But yeah, those are top quality pieces of art from that period. With Simon and Kirby art on most of them. I don't know if it's all of them. It's quite a large majority of those. But yeah, those are really awesome comics. I was just looking at some of those the other night. Really good stuff. I've never owned any, but I will at some point.
Yeah, I think at least the first half or first 2/3 were all Simon and Kirby. I'm trying to remember. I think at the end there they went to more like fantasy, I want to say, but I could be wrong. I'm trying to remember that in the comic book shop I worked at, they had several of them, and they were just stupendous comics. It really, when you read through them, you're like, it's almost like you're inhaling the majesty of Simon and Kirby. They're just fabulous, drawn, written, everything. Simon Comics is right there. That was a genius series, really was.
That's cool. Thanks for sharing that with us. I didn't know any of that. Well, I obviously knew some of it, but I didn't know that was their kind of brainchild. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, Simon worked for so many different publishers. Harvey, especially during the 50s and 60s. And if you look at Simon's Comics channel, you'll see a lot of the stuff in the background, which is just jaw-dropping. I mean, just absolutely amazing. I think a lot of them he's gotten from his relatives, but let me tell you, I wish I had relatives that had that kind of quality of comic. Just amazing stuff. You really got to check out his channel.
I call him the Golden Age Master.
Oh, yeah, he is, isn't he? And he's a young guy.
He really is. He knows his stuff. I tell him all the time.
Geez, his knowledge, he blows me away on that stuff, let me tell you. Wow.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Well, we're glad to have you in the chat, Simon Comics. Thanks for the offer up of the topic there. I'm always looking for more things we can strain as much knowledge out of these guys as we can. And everybody that we have here, we just squeeze them until they pop. So, speaking of which, since we don't have the Crimson comic on all the time, obviously, I want to thank you especially for being one of our special guests, as you generally do show your face in comics. I mean, in your videos.
I wish in comics.
Yeah, that would be great.
We should get Chris Barkham to make a comic of all of us. That would be awesome.
Well, he's a writer. He can write it. We just need an artist.
He's got an artist in pocket, so we can
in pocket.
Well, he's got a guy that Samir, I think his name is, or
yeah, the one who does serious. Yeah, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so he can probably hook us up. If not, Tats Comics could do it.
Oh, Tat.
That's fantastic. Did you see that Superman box top he did? It was fantastic.
So nice. It's so nice.
He's killing me with those box tops. Killing me.
Same here.
So good. So Crimson Comic, we know when you did your room tour for my, I think it was 250 subscriber contest, we got to see a lot of awesome stuff. And one of the things that I really liked were those sketches that you had done. So when you're talking to artists and getting them to do, how does that work? Like when you go up there, do you tell them exactly what you want, or do they just go? You just tell them, draw me the Flash, and you sit back and hope for the best.
Actually, the ones I had hanging up were they're just prints. So I just flipped through a portfolio they had. So not a very good story, but yeah. I don't have any sketches that aren't prints. So
I know Deadpool 2323 is huge on he's on a original sketch crusade to get a ton of them right now. I'm jealous of what he shows until he tells me how much he pays for them, and then I'm like, well, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, Neil Adams' story was interesting. Sorry, DS.
No, it's all right. I'm just gonna say, Crimson, I'm with you. I don't have enough money to go around to get everything I want. So if I get any type of sketch type or art, I get prints. They look just as good on the wall. And I have just enough money to pick up a few comic books here and there, but I don't. I go with Prince on that stuff. That original art, the sketches. I mean, it's expensive. That stuff's expensive. I mean, it's definitely worth it for a lot of people that pick that stuff up. But I just, I don't have the money to get that. So I go with Prince too for anything like that. It looks just as good, and it's in my price range.
For sure, definitely. Yeah, same here. I mean, it's definitely an easy way for me to get something nice on the wall, but not spend as much. So yeah, that's put that money elsewhere, like you said. So,
hey Ryan, look, I saw your video about the homages, so I put this. I didn't know if you knew about this one, so I put this.
Oh yeah. I got that one. I think that was in my first video, part 1.
Oh, okay. I must have missed it. Okay.
I love that one though. It's hilarious.
You see that? Isn't that hilarious with the penguin and Luke?
That is awesome. Is that the homage of one of the Flash covers, right, where Garrick is coming around the corner at the same time that Barry is?
Yeah, Flash 123. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, cool, guys. So let's talk about, we've talked about some of JPL Flash's favorite version of Superman. We know what that is. It's going to be the 80s Superman, right?
Oh, yeah.
And some rebirth brought back to the same. And we know Barry Allen's is Crimson Comics' favorite Flash version.
Oh, yeah.
So now what happens, like, for me, for me, it's easy. To me, there is only one Wolverine. So when you whenever someone says X-23, I say, well, that's not Wolverine. And then someone will say, well, what about Dakin, like Wolverine's son? I say, yeah, that's not Wolverine either. And then every now and then somebody will say, oh, well, old man Logan is Wolverine. I say, only for like a week did I believe that. And then, no, that's not Wolverine either. You know, so to me, there's only one version of Wolverine, which is kind of nice because everyone else just kind of is a filler, if you will, without even the exact same qualities or powers or personality. So I wonder sometimes when, like, Roger, you have, of course, your favorite character is Master of Kung Fu, right? Shang-Chi?
Correct.
So there could not be a more unique character that could, I mean, no one else could take up the mantle of being Master of Kung Fu Shang-Chi. So is that one of the reasons that a character like that kind of stalls out and you don't see any recreated stories or a resurgence of the character? Is it because it's too unique?
Well, I don't know exactly. I think what occurred with Master of Kung Fu is that he was born in the Kung Fu craze of the 70s, and then he had a story that was one huge arc for almost 10 years. And once that arc finished, there was nothing else for him to do because he was not a superhero. He was trying to just right a wrong that he knew he had to do because it was his father that led him down the wrong path initially. And he felt responsible for, everything that his father did after that. So he knew he had to stop him. And he just had to survive him too, because his father was talk about goofy assassins. I mean, every other issue was a guy with a ponytail and a mace or nunchucks that had, fire on them, just all kinds of bizarre things. In the 70s, that's the kind of ostentatious covers that we liked.
Let me tell you something, Roger. I grew up in the Bronx, and I can tell you those people exist. I've seen all those guys. They may not have had fire on their nunchucks, but they're out there. I'm telling you.
But again, because he was a product of a fad, I think, although he transcended that as a character. But and I think that in this case, it's the way it should be. Once Fu Manchu was defeated, then he retired and became a fisherman. Okay, he's not a crime fighter. He was a man of peace, and he was true to his nature after that task was finished.
Yeah, I would agree. I like that it's a completed arc. So when you have, in other words, what we're saying is that it's not necessarily that it's as unique of a character that cannot be, the story can't be transferred, but that the story doesn't need to be transferred because it's complete.
Yeah, I mean, he did have appearances here and there afterwards on Marvel Comics Presents, and I think now he's also Domino's boyfriend or fiance or something.
Oh man, they Lois Laned him. That's rough.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I can't deal with that. You know what I mean? I just can't deal with that. To me, Shang-Chi, when he retired as a fisherman, that was the end of the story. I didn't pick up anything after that.
Nice. So what happens? I know you're a big Warlock fan as well. So what happens when new versions of Warlock come out? Are you interested in those at all?
Yeah, I am, because again, there was a reason for once Thanos was resurrected, and once the Infinity Gauntlet. Well, I'm going to the comics now, right? The movie is a bit different, but once the Infinity Gauntlet was in play again, and he had to protect the stones, then the Infinity Watch and all that stuff. I mean, I'm not crazy about it because the logic is just so disjointed in those comics, right? But at least there's a purpose for him to come back. And like Captain Marvel has never come back to my knowledge because there's no purpose for him to come back. You know, it was such an incredibly well-written death by Starlin that to resurrect him would really, just would really cheapen that the life that he had and that the product that ended up in that graphic novel. So I respect that, at least in Marvel, that every once in a while they do keep somebody dead.
That's like something that sounds like the tagline to one of DS's favorite 2.5 books. He's like, he's like, oh man, I hope somebody stays dead this time. And it'd be like a big skull cover with fire behind it. I don't know. About right. Oh man, what's JPL Flash got going on over there? He's just been playing. Oh, I love that. Is that Adam Hughes variant on the far left?
This one here, yeah. That is the most sought after comic book in Volume 2 of Wonder Woman.
Hey, you have the masterpiece. You have the masterpiece Superman like I do, huh?
I do. I saw you put it up, and I was like, I'm putting mine up.
Brilliant, buddy. Brilliant. It looks like the real thing, except much smaller.
Yeah. That's great.
I like that. That's one of the things I like about the No Faces chat is everyone kind of starts moving their books around, except DS. He's always a stalwart. He won't. He puts up these two comics until someone eventually gets to the topic that is the reason that he put those up there. So I'm gonna guess that it's because he wants to mention maybe like the difference between silver and bronze, or bronze and modern age. What do you got for us?
No, I actually just was looking through my Spawn homage run, and I just wanted to pull out the Hulk 340 and compare it with the Spawn 226. They're both nice McFarlane covers, and I was like, yeah, let's throw these up for a background. So no significance, no talking points. I really like McFarlane's work, and I just was digging these two covers earlier today, so I just left them out, and I figured I'd use them as a background.
When you come home, from a long day's work, are you do you just dig through your comics? You just sit there in the basement and pretend to be doing laundry and working on the elliptical, and instead you just dig through your slabs?
Well, that's accurate most of the time, to be honest. I mean, I don't have a comic room or anything, so I'll just sit down here and I'll just play some music, and I'll just read some hardcover compilations, or I'll grab some old pre-code horror and just flip through it. And I'll just break out a box of slabs and look through them. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, that's how I enjoy my comics right now. I'll do what I'm doing here essentially is what I'll do a lot when I'm by myself with my comics. I'll throw a couple up to look at, and then I'll search on eBay on the computer, or I'll break open an old book and just read through it, or I'll have a hardcover book collection of whatever, and I'll read that. And the other night I pulled out I was going through my collection of Charlton's The Thing because I'm waiting on a few back from CGC, and I just spread out in front of me the Ditko covers that I have, and I sat there and read a new book I got that has pre-code horror in it, and I took some photos and threw them up on my Instagram, and I just hung out by myself with some pre-code spread around me, and that was what I did. Cool.
I really enjoy digging through them myself, but I don't really get the time. It seems like one of the reasons, like, people have asked me, why I don't show my face in videos, and there's two reasons. One is because I like to focus on the comics in the videos. I think that's what we're kind of all here for. If I had a group of subscribers that just enjoyed looking at me, that would make me a little uncomfortable. Nor do I want them to have to look past me and be like, boy, the comics he shows are great, but I'm so sick of looking at his stupid face. So instead of all that, I like to focus on the books. But then also, I do it because when I'm like at work, I work in an office, and when I'm at work, it's the only way that I can like spend time with my comics. Is so I'll take a picture on Instagram, or I'll do a video, and I've also been asked, like, why do I upload like every day? I guess that's kind of a lot of videos. I guess I put out a lot of content, maybe more. I know I'm always eager for Mondays because I know DS is going to put up a video. Most Mondays he puts up a video, and a lot of people have a few days a week that they'll put up a video, and I tend to put one up every day, at least through the week. I don't do as much on the weekend, and that's so that I can sit at work and watch the video over and over again to just see the comics that I just picked up for myself. And if I saw myself on the video, that wouldn't be as much fun for me.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, the reason I mainly don't show my face in the videos is I just like to stay in the shadows and stay anonymous, stay under the radar. So that's why I don't. But yeah, focusing on the books, I'll go with that. That's much better.
I just don't want to scare everybody away with my face, so that's why I don't show it.
Oh, if I looked as young and spry as a Crimson Comic, I'd have T-shirts of myself made.
Oh yeah, I show everything I could. Absolutely, yeah.
That's why I keep it so small in the corner, so you can't make out a lot of detail.
I love your setup. If no one's ever been to Crimson Comics, sub him up now. If you guys are in the chat, all 20 of you, or people are coming and going as they do. But when you guys are in the chat, sub up to Crimson Comic. He has a fantastic setup that he does. It's I guess top right corner would be his logo, which is awesome. I'm going to ask him about that in a minute when I get done talking. And then then the far left, he does like a top down view of his desk. I assume his desk. And it's got a so that way he can display the comic. Doesn't have to fumble with the comic at all. It's always flat, and it cuts out the glare. Like, there's never any glare in his videos, which I think is awesome. And then in the bottom right hand corner, smallest of all of the three, is his face. Not his little face, but his face. It looks little on the video, but I'm sure it's full size in real life. So So, two questions for you then, Crimson Comic. How did you come up with that? I've not seen anyone else with that setup. It almost seems kind of like a gamer type setup. So how did you come up with that setup? And also, where'd you get that cool logo? Because I really love it.
Yeah, so really, you kind of nailed it. A lot of gamers do that, where they'll have like the full screen game, and then a little in one of the corners have a little box with them. And I was just trying to think, like, when I first decided I wanted to start making videos, I was just trying to think of something that was a little different than what I've seen, and definitely took the idea straight from like Twitch and streamers there. So you nailed it with that. And then the logo, I just looked up some Flash logos online, and then I took a few graphic design courses in college. So I know how to use Photoshop a little bit. I can't draw worth crap, but I can manipulate stuff on a computer. So I just decided to find some photos online that I could use as kind of a starter, and then I just manipulated it to kind of make it's actually like 2 semicircles. They're supposed to be 2 C's. One's
that's
backwards.
exactly what it looks like. It looks right.
And then I made the lightning bolt to look more like Jay Garrick's, because his kind of comes from like his waist. So that was kind of the idea there. But yeah,
it's really neat. I love
Thanks.
it. And you guys, you need to sub them up if you're not. Where are you sitting at sub count roundabouts?
I think like 103 or so. Last I checked.
And I know when I had booked you for this, I know it's been like 6 months since we settled on a date. That's what I'm telling you, man. We're booked. We get booked pretty far ahead. We get booked so far ahead that I worry that someone will forget. Like, like they were like, "What? An email? That's today? Oh my God! I thought I had another month." You know, so I worry about that. I've tried to slow down a little bit on it, but anyway, I think we had Ryan booked it's over a month ago.
Oh yeah, definitely
a month ago. So I was worried that people start forgetting and stuff. But at that time he was under 100 subs, so he's been picking up a few along the way, and hopefully after tonight and this, people catch on the replay, they'll be interested in seeing some more of his videos, because I think they're fantastic. We like watching. We all, my son and my wife, we like watching your videos all together because we just enjoy. My son likes the Flash as a character, and also enjoys, I guess, seeing someone a little younger on the screen. He didn't like looking at people that look like his dad or as old as his dad. So, I can understand that. So cool. And of course, JPL Flash, we know what he's been doing lately. You started a new chat on Tuesday nights. We talked about it just for a second already, but how's that going so far? Are you going through the growing pains of it all?
Well, it was the first one last Tuesday, and I think it went really well. I think so. But yeah, thanks for asking. Yeah, it went well, I think.
It really was. JPL, no fluff aside. It was really excellent because you two guys just play off each other so well. You and McD, just one thing after another. It was funny. It was informative. It was interesting, the whole bit.
Yeah, I think I was on fire that night. I just came up with all these impressions just constantly, didn't I? I was just
Arnold. Yeah, I mean, come on.
Stay cool, bird boy.
I really enjoyed it. It was good. I was surprised because not that I enjoyed it. I felt like I would enjoy it. I expected to enjoy it. But what I was surprised at was the time. I forget the time zone. And again, thank you for staying up way past your bedtime. I know that if you eat anything, you're probably going to change into some horrific monster. And if you get wet, you'll start multiplying. So,
I've heard it happens to the Queen.
So I was just like, he kept saying, he had it on his Instagram, and that we're gonna be on tonight. So I was like, cool. I was like, man, I hope we're not like in the middle of a movie or something. Tuesday nights we sometimes watch movies and stuff. I was like, I hope we're not in the middle of a movie or anything like that when this comes on, because I hate to be that guy in the room that's like watching it in the corner, on his phone while we're trying to watch a movie together. But then it was like at 4:00 in the afternoon. I was like, what the heck is this? I'm at work. I can't watch this. What's going on?
Yeah. Same thing happened to me. I didn't catch it till like, 6 or so. And I was like, oh, it's on already?
We wanted to make it as late as possible so you guys could join in, but we were like, we can't make it too late for us.
Yeah.
It was 8:30 for us.
Right.
Wow. Oh, thanks, Bueller. Bueller's just said I enjoyed your show. Thanks, mate.
Yeah, who else have we got new in this chat? We've got Bueller. He says, hopes my day's going good. Thank you. Hope your day's going fantastic too. And he's on the other side. He's on West Coast. So they're just now getting off work over there or there and abouts, depending on what kind of job you do, I reckon. And we got Metarog in the channel. Boy, he couldn't make it tonight, everybody. I'm sorry. If you were come for the Roger show, you missed it. He had.
Can you see this here?
Can you see this
here?
Oh, yeah. Hey,
Oh, God,
buddy,
that-
I come from the land where they're made. You know, I mean,
No, you come from New York. You live in the land they're made.
let me tell
I
you.
come
where
from a
I'm
land
from-
where we don't have baseball.
Oh, that's a sad story.
We play cricket.
Well, it's just a flatter paddle. It's just flatter. That's wrong.
Oh, it's similar.
I used to get
Somehow,
spanked with one of those cricket things. Come on,
This is a family show, Roger. Let's keep it together. Come on.
in school.
Hey, we don't want to know what kind of weird places you got your education. All right.
When I went to school, corporal punishment was allowed. Okay, and this was way back when. Okay? They would hit, put your hand there and they crack them.
I tell you, so I'll give a quick story of that. When I was in kindergarten, I went to a Catholic school for kindergarten, and this would have been in the 80s, and I can early 80s, and I can tell you that they had a rule at the school that they would whack your hand with a ruler. You would get like lashings with a ruler on your hand. Depending on what you did and how bad it was. And those rulers back then were like, they're not the balsa wood crap they give out now. They were hard. I mean, they were like a 1/4 inch thick and they were solid. It was, carved.
Those are oak rulers there.
Yes. They were carved from an oak tree struck by lightning in 1937. And, you can hear the natural theme of the. So then around that same time, they started adding metal edges to the rulers. And you can guess where this is going. And one of the kids got hurt pretty bad and had a finger like half off. And that happened the year I was there, and they stopped it immediately. And that was, as far as I know, the last time that they did it at that school. So I was there the year corporal punishment ended. And I still have all my fingers, so it wasn't me. It wasn't me.
Whoa.
They didn't catch me.
Whoa.
Our teachers use cricket bats.
Oh, good grief. Here in Kentucky, they still do corporal punishment. You have to sign a waiver as a parent, but they'll whack your kids for you if you need them to.
Wow.
That's convenient.
It's totally gone in England. Totally gone.
I thought it was gone everywhere until I moved here and found that out. I couldn't believe it.
Oh.
So, what about you, DS? They have that in your neck of the woods, or is everyone just a good little boy and nobody gets in trouble?
Well, I went to public school when I was in elementary school. I remember there was one teacher that would always dish out corporal punishment, and she would make one kid stand in the corner with his head and shoulders all the way in the garbage can for the whole class.
Dang.
I got hit a couple times with like a pointer that you would point at things on the blackboard or a map.
I remember that.
And I actually had to stand with my nose on the blackboard for an entire class once. That was humiliating when you're like 7.
Oh, did they draw the circle and everything?
No, I don't remember. I tried to block that out. I'm not sure.
Block that out. That's too traumatizing. Yeah.
I was a good student. I don't even know
don't
what I
you,
got in
Roger?
trouble for, but I had to stand with my nose touching the blackboard for most of the class.
Oh, that
But
stinks.
she was just known for dishing it out to everybody. It didn't matter. Everybody got it from her.
She's a sadist.
Yeah. But she never got in trouble for it. And it was just accepted that if you did anything in her class, that's what happened. So it was just acceptable. But today, that would never fly.
Hey,
Wow.
Tat Comic says that he's ever on the show, he'll use his drumstick. Because he's a drummer. He's a musician, too. So.
Absolutely. I would think that most of the box tops that he doesn't draw on, he's putting little holes in with his drumsticks, just whacking on them all day.
Yeah, maybe that's his practice board, just because he does have a textured look to some of them. So maybe
that's what when I was a kid, I had a pair of drumsticks, and I didn't have any drums. I just had a pair of drumsticks, and I would play them on textbooks. Like I'd sit in my room and play little ditties on, because if you get different sizes of textbooks, then they would make different sounds. So I would play little songs between them. I was amazing. I was an undiscovered talent until now.
Bet you were great in the library.
Oh yeah, they love me. I get set outside a lot. Like that was my classroom. They just put me outside all the time. Like
give me some bolts and a stick. They'd be happy.
Well, I think we fully derailed this episode.
When you say we, you mean you, because
no,
you're the director of this little soiree. So
we've got a Brit with us, so I'm speaking of the royal we.
Yeah, the royal we. Sorry, I brought it down again.
No, explain the royal we to Roger there, JPL.
The royal we.
Yeah,
that's the Queen and I.
Yes, the Queen and I, exactly. Or it's what you take when you're at the palace and you really got to go.
Oh yeah,
take that royal we.
Yeah. Well, they call that spend a penny.
That's the water closet we. They go to the water closet.
One is going for one's we now.
Oh, just when you thought it couldn't get worse, it got worse. So if Tat actually still wants to be on the show after all that, I'll be sure to get him back on.
Tat is resilient. He's a resilient guy. He'll survive. Trust me, he'll survive.
Oh
he has kids. He knows how to survive our mentalities. No problem.
I'll have fun watching in the future, guys. Thanks.
We'll have you back on. Don't worry. We have an opening in November of 2026.
Oh, right. I'll be there,
yeah, send me an instant hologram or whatever we're doing at that time, and I will. I'll be sure to respond.
I'll be doing my shot from the nursing home. and showing my 2018 comics at that point.
Oh, we're here with the no bedpan chat.
No, I go straight for the catheter. I skip the bedpan, go straight for the catheter. I don't want to deal with that stuff. No way.
Oh God. Oh, you can make the cover of one of DS's books with that. It came from the nursing home, and there's Roger holding the catheter. Ah!
Yeah.
I need reinsertion.
I won't get to the other part. I won't even talk about the other part.
Let's not.
This is a family show, so we won't talk about.
Yes, it used to be. For the first hour, I was really confident of that.
Ryan is probably thinking to himself, "What have I gotten myself into? What have I gotten myself into?" At least James had an inkling, but
Hey, I used to think
sitting there. Oh my God, these guys.
Yeah, I used to think Roger was the sweetest guy watching his videos on his chat. And then I come here and I see him on here, and man, he's loose. He's crazy on here.
I am.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he cuts loose on Monday nights. We're all worried for his family.
Hey Ryan, listen.
We don't know what he's gonna do.
Listen, let me give you a hint. When you're as old and as I am, right?
Okay.
You only have a one life to live. You got to live it to the fullest.
Hey, there you go. I hear you.
Every day you got to live it like it's your last. And I'm actually pretty close to that. So you know what I mean? I got to do it.
Oh yeah.
So I am a sweet guy on a personal level, but I love to mix it up. I just love it.
I tell you, when I'm as old as Roger, if I should live that long, then I want to definitely. I'll be like one of DS's comics. I just want to be complete with just covers attached. Yeah, staples attached, complete. A little wear, a little writing doesn't matter. It's all good.
Hey, anything above mid grade is a win. Is a win.
With no restoration, just
no
complete,
restoration. Have the staples attached. Yep. Have all the pages. Don't rip out that centerfold, buddy. Do not rip out that centerfold. Keep that in there, even if it's detached. Keep it in there.
While we're talking about the bitter end, I don't know. You guys might think it's weird, but I've already talked to my wife about some final wishes, right? So I'm in the process, not actively, but like just in my mind, right? My mind processes of I know a guy who makes tombstones. He's a local guy. I live in a small town, so you kind of know everybody, right? And this is the tombstone guy, right? The guy who orders and creates tombstones for people. So I'm thinking about having some advanced directives done, and I want to have a slab as my tombstone. And I want the grade to be the year that how old I was when I passed away. So, if I live to be 92, I want to be a 9.2. And then I want it to look like a CGC slab. And I wanted to tell my little story at the top. First appearance would be the day I was born, final appearance here. And then, have a cover of basically me or, something like that as the main. What do you guys think about that?
You've really thought this through, haven't you?
I have. I thought it was a great idea. I've thought about it so much. I was like, hey, if this catches on, maybe I could sell these things,
CGC gravestones.
Yeah, slabs for slabs, is what I call it.
Oh my God, you need to trademark that.
Oh, that's
you
perfect.
guys heard it here. It's on there.
Yeah, that's not bad. You definitely got to come up with an image that's like a cover swipe of something for the picture, for like the book on the slab. Do some type of homage or cover swipe or something.
Absolutely. That's what we need to do. Maybe we can have Tat design them. Tat, are you in the chat still? You need to design some of those those slabs.
There's a commission for you, Tat.
There's a commission. Yeah, we've got another tombstone for you to work on. He's over there. Oh man.
Have you seen what C Woodard's just put?
What's he got up there?
Will the body bag be made of mylar?
I don't know. One of my things on mylar is it's always crunchy, right? So I don't want to be crunchy in there.
It'll be one of those inner wells, like in CGC, just sort of like, you'll just sort of, because the skeleton's going to degrade over time. Just let's mash it up in there, and that's it. You got an inner well.
That's a good idea. And then you can have maybe if you can't afford the CGC model, you get the PGX model. They might get your date of birth right. You might be. Well, the problem is it's too easy to open, so you got grave robbers, right? They'll be coming after you.
Yeah, they might transplant your body into another slab, with a higher grade, and
try to crack your slab open.
The fraudulent slab cracking, but at a posthumous level.
I love it.
Oh my God. I don't remember this in your plan, Bub.
No, this is one of those rare nights where we breeze through the topic so fast that we have extra time to annoy each other and others. So I think we're doing a fine job. Well, any comic related things we're looking forward to? Movies, books, cons, etc. Hey, how about Crimson Comic? We haven't heard from you in a minute. What do you say?
Oh man, well, definitely the looking forward to the DC Universe shows that are supposed to be coming out. Not really looking forward to pay a monthly fee for them, but
whoa, what was that? Pay a monthly fee?
DC Universe. It's a new streaming service just with DC.
Streaming service. Oh, yeah. I thought you were talking about the shows that are on, Green Arrow and all that.
Oh, no.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
you guys are lucky. We hadn't even had DC Universe announced over here.
Oh, geez.
I chased them up. I literally tweeted to DC Universe and I got a reply saying we're looking into it.
Oh, man.
Wow. I'll send you over some discs or something with the shows on it if you want.
Are those live action? Are those live action shows?
Some of them are, yeah. Oh, yeah. I think Harley Quinn, that show, I think is going to be animated.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I think they're doing a live action version of a Swamp Thing show on there.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah,
I'm
me
looking
too.
forward to Swamp Thing.
I'll catch it somewhere. I'm not paying the subscription, so I'll wait until I can view it somewhere else. But I really want to see a cool, well done Swamp Thing show.
Yeah, that would be awesome for sure.
I loved the movie when I was a kid, and I went back to watch it like a year ago, and it was unwatchable. Oh, it was absolutely horrible.
Oh, I fell asleep during that movie. Oh my gosh, it was so awful.
I haven't seen it.
Oh, you haven't seen it? Oh, it's a classic of terrible movie making.
Which movie are you talking about?
The original Swamp Thing. It had a sequel too, I think. The Return of Swamp Thing or Swamp Thing Returns or something like that.
I don't think I've ever seen that.
Oh man, you gotta watch it.
It's with Louis Jourdan and Adrienne Barbeau.
Okay, I had no idea.
Those aren't just fine wines. Those are people.
DS. It's awful. It's just it's unwatchable as.
Oh yeah, okay. I've seen that. I may have seen that image. I've never seen that movie.
I mean that thing. Have you seen the Man Thing movie from?
No, I saw Toxic Avenger. I feel like that's in the same category.
That's an Academy Award winner compared to the Swamp Thing. Trust me.
I'll have to check that out. I'm not sure how I missed that. I've never seen it at all.
Oh man, that was during a fog. I think you had your nose to a blackboard during that time when that came out.
Probably. That looks like it's what, early '80s or something, late '70s.
Yeah, early.
Yeah, I'll tell you in a minute. I've got it in my Bible here.
You know, you read the Swamp. You read Bernie Wrightson's Swamp Thing, and you're thinking, okay, this is going to be cool. And I saw that hunk of trash, and I'm like, bleh.
1982.
1982. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So I probably was the time period where I had my nose to the blackboard there.
Well, that was probably more enjoyable than the movie.
I don't know. I'll tell you what. Later on tonight, when I get off of here, I'm going to go check and see if that's on Amazon Prime or on demand or something. I'm going to try to check that out.
Don't eat a late dinner.
Yeah,
that's not that bad. It is bad, but it's not that bad.
The makeup looks pretty cool, isn't it?
In the first one, in the second one, it's like what little special effects budget they had, which is basically just like a ghillie suit for the first guy. They don't even bring that out for the second one, and they do like some kind of rubber. It looks absolutely terrible. I'm pretty sure he does it with McPherson, or was it Elle McPherson, or who played the girlfriend in the second movie? Heather, maybe, or
Heather Locklear.
Heather Locklear, and I think he like put some roots on her or something, like some very suggestive leaf action going on. In that movie. Yeah. Do you remember that, Roger? Doesn't he like stick some leaves on her or something?
I tried to forget it, but yeah, I remember it.
It's like Arbor Day or something, you know, and everybody's hugging a tree.
Yeah, it's sort of like a risque kind of Arbor Day. Yeah.
Yeah, risque Arbor Day. That's what they should have named the third one. Probably would have got better reviews.
Oh man, I couldn't take a third. Let me tell you, that was awful. Heather Locklear was great to look at, but that's about the only thing that was good to look at.
Yeah, and that whole movie has got such bad cinematography. It's like all misty and sunlight, like filmed in the real Amazon jungle. It's like, yeah, right. You know, it looked terrible.
Because I think they wanted to sort of hide the how bad the suit was. Like, it's just like a scuba outfit, like with a little painting or
yeah, it's real bad.
So it sounds like that's probably even worse than the Toxic Avenger, which was not even meant to be good.
Yes, because this movie was serious.
Okay, yeah.
It took itself very seriously. The first one does. The second one's kind of goofy, but the first one really takes itself seriously and just fails miserably. It's horrible. Yeah. Well, now you've all got your recommendations for the night. So,
or lack of, I would.
Yeah.
I mean, let me tell you that the Man Thing movie that will put you to sleep too.
I've never seen it. I didn't know
there was a Man Thing movie.
Yeah, there is. It's so boring. I mean, it is so boring that I have yet to see the whole thing through because you fall asleep.
I might watch it after this then.
All it is people out in the Florida Everglades just talking about something happening, yelling across the swamp. That's it.
I mean, to be fair, that's how most Man Thing comics are anyway, isn't it?
Oh, heck no. Bite your tongue. Bite your tongue. Those are some of the most brilliantly written comics ever.
I try to get into the Man Thing, but it's always just like a hunk of seaweed sitting on a log going, I think I'm angry. I know I'm angry. I feel angry. I'm angry. Like, oh my God, do something already.
Oh man, you got to get into the Man Thing. You got to realize that
I'm afraid of what I'll catch.
He's a reflection. He's a reflection of society, of its bigotries, of its social aspects, of the lack of empathy out in the world. That's all those things are soundboarded in the Man Thing.
I don't need it. It's all there. I can see it for myself. I don't need some brooding hunk of moss to tell me it.
Hey, when you get to my age, that's what you look like. All right, so it's coming for you. It's coming for
a hunk. Hey, a hunk of Moz. That's better than just being a chunk.
You don't want to be a hunk. Believe me, you want to be a thin, like rail thin. You don't want to be a hunk at that.
Oh man! Speaking of terrible movies that used to be good, or just stuff that when you go back and watch, I tell you one thing that I couldn't get through. When I was a kid, I used to watch The Greatest American Hero. You guys remember that show, right?
Yep.
They have that over in. You don't remember that?
No.
Believe it or not, I'm walking on air. Go sing it for us, DS.
I'm probably not going to do that, but I remember the show. But I remember the song you're talking about in the show. Yeah, it had I can't remember the actor's name, the guy with the curly blonde hair.
Yeah. And I tried rewatching that, guys. I think it was on Netflix or something a couple of years back, and I put it on. That is one of the most unwatchable shows I've ever seen. Like, the effects were horrible. The acting is terrible. And it's very, like, I don't know, I don't want to offend anybody, but it's very, like, homoerotic. Like, the whole thing is, like, super, super, super leaning heavy towards, just whatever way they were feeling at the moment. It's like, holy cow.
I couldn't believe it when it came out. Yeah, I couldn't see it when it came out. You're right. It's totally unwatchable.
Oh, man.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I didn't get the homoerotic spin, but I just thought it was just downright boring. I mean, just downright boring.
Yeah, I remember watching it. I don't think I was that into it. I think I was more into, what was that, Air Fox? Is that the name of the one with the helicopter?
Airwolf.
Yeah, that was my favorite show when I was a kid.
Hey, we could do a whole chat. I mean, whole live stream on these old shows.
I always loved MacGyver.
Oh, MacGyver. Yeah.
I love MacGyver.
I watched the A-Team like crazy.
Yeah.
That was a good show. But then, again, now, if you watch it now, you're like, this is ridiculous.
Well, MacGyver was the same. He'd have like a glass bottle and a straw, and he'd get out of a locked room.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
With his trusty pocket knife.
Well, he became a verb. His name became a verb.
MacGyverism.
MacGyver, yeah. Can you MacGyver this?
Yeah, that's true.
I mentioned it in an episode of Stargate SG-1 because Richard Dean Anderson was in that.
Yeah.
And he pulled a face as if to say, ha ha ha.
Yeah. That was that's still watchable. That's still a watchable show.
I love it.
I gotta tell you, a show that I held up better than I thought it would was Knight Rider, like the Hasselhoff Knight Rider. That show actually holds up pretty good. It's still exciting to watch for me.
David Hasselhoff's career is at an all-time low. He's now advertising over here for a cheap British supermarket.
Why is it gotta be cheap? Can't it be like a high-end supermarket?
No. It's one of the cheapest ones. A cheap frozen one.
Well, he's not advertising over here for anything, so.
Yeah, he has to go down there.
I guess we got the DC Universe Hasselhoff.
Well, he did. Then he went to Baywatch, and that's a show about nothing essentially.
No, it was a show about two things, and Pamela Anderson had them both.
Well, yeah. That way. But I mean, story-wise, I was like, "What? Have you ever seen
the story?"
I'm like, "What? What is this about?"
I watched it on mute. I don't know what you're talking about.
What story?
That's probably the way to do it.
A story in Baywatch.
And then he did Baywatch Nights. Did anybody see that?
No.
I remember that. He teamed up with a detective or copper or something, didn't he?
Oh my God. That's the most horrible show I've ever seen. Even Swamp Thing is better than that. I mean, that is just rancidly horrible.
Oh, I'll take that and I'll raise you that Hulk Hogan program. Was it Thunder in Paradise? Oh, look.
Oh, yeah.
Paradise. I've never seen that.
Yeah.
I've never seen that.
Thunder in Paradise.
Is that a movie or a series?
Oh, it was a TV series. I think it was called that. It was Hulk Hogan with a boat.
What? I remember that. Yeah, the boat. He was in a speedboat.
Just Googled it.
Oh, I gotta check that out now.
It's from the creators of Baywatch, which stars Hulk Hogan
Oh my lord! No way!
You're
You're pulling my leg, right?
See, there you go, guys. See,
Hold on.
I didn't know it
check
could
it out. It was a movie that the series says he would see. You need to check it out, guys. Seriously, it's so bad.
You guys are pulling my leg.
No,
This is
no,
a
Thunder in
conspiracy,
Paradise
right?
with Hulk Hogan.
Thunder in Paradise was a movie, then a series. Oh, you're kidding me.
No,
The
They didn't
movie was
stop
that
with
good.
the movie. They went on to do a serialize it.
Yeah, yeah, Ryan, it was that good, wasn't it? They just couldn't do without it being on the big screen. They want to have it on a series. Oh my gosh!
now it's my turn to educate you about bad TV.
Oh my gosh. I thought I had seen every one of these bad shows. I mean, you guys
And it
got
was
me.
from
on that.
the makers of Baywatch as well, so
Well, maybe that's why I try to avoid that at all costs.
That's good stuff. What do you mean? First Baywatch was it wasn't really good, but it was.
Well-
It was. Hey, if we're going by watchable, it
Yeah.
was watchable.
It was watchable, I guess you can say that. Yeah, I've seen a few of them. Yeah,
It was watchable.
but
was
but,
watchable.
second, third, fourth series. I mean, how many people can you save from drowning? I mean, come on. There's got to be something more, and that's why they went. Oh, didn't they go into like a horror thing too? Like
yeah, they started
God.
doing like psychological issues or something,
yeah,
didn't they?
yeah, like mystery. Like I think one was like
Yeah.
a vampire or something. I mean,
yeah,
talk about throwing stuff at the wall, see if it sticks.
it jumps the shark.
They
Literally.
jumped the shark. That's right. Happy days, right there. Yep.
There you go. Thunder and Terry, Hulk Hogan.
Oh, there we
Thunder
go.
in Paradise. Danger, entertainment, adventure.
Oh,
It's just
God.
another day.
Boy.
You need
Oh,
to watch it,
boy.
Roger.
Oh man. Okay.
They even did a video game of it. And it was
Oh,
one of them like live FMV video games.
Oh, but
that's-
what system? What system? Do you remember?
I can't remember.
What?
It just every now and then Hulk Hogan would come up and go, "Oh, you need to move fast," and then you're like, "What?"
That wasn't. It wasn't on Sega CD, was it? A Sega CD?
It might have been
Oh.
PC.
Oh my god! Because I have a Sega
Funny.
CD. If so, I got to track that down.
Yeah, it's really really bad.
Oh man. All right, guys, we've done it again. We've wasted another hour and a half of everyone's time and lives, and we've taken another point off our 9-point whatevers. It's going to be in our slabs. It'll be in our final resting place. We've taken another ding, another spine tick. And,
Hey, listen
yeah.
to this. Deadpool 2323 says Baywatch was the #1 show watched by inmates in jails.
well, I bet it was.
Now we know the audience for that show. That explains a lot.
Yeah, and Deadpool, you're asking if we remember Airwolf. I just brought that up as being my favorite show from when I was a kid too.
Yeah.
So
Just keep doing the theme tune for you.
Absolutely. You'll love it or else.
all right, so when we come back next week, I'm gonna have a review of the Swamp Thing movie, and I'm gonna check out that Thunder in Paradise because that looks
Yes,
badass.
yes, please.
I appreciate that. I'm going to Cincinnati Comic-Con next weekend, so I'll come back and I'll be broke and happy. And I think we've got, I could be mistaken, but I think it's actually Deadpool 2323 is on next week.
All right.
If I'm not
Nice one.
mistaken. So, all right, guys. Well, thanks again. We've got, of course, our special guest. We've got the Crimson Comic. Say thank you. Thank you, Crimson Comic.
Hey, yeah, thanks for having me on here. It's I always loved watching the show, so it's awesome to be able to be a part of it.
Glad you could make it. And then also filling in for Roger tonight, who wasn't able to be here. We've got JPL Flash. Comics
Well, I'm
and
sorry
Geeks.
Roger couldn't be here, and it's been a pleasure to fill him.
I'm not.
Thanks for having me on
Honestly,
again, Bob.
Oh no problem at all. Honestly, 6-7 days is not break enough sometimes. So
Hey, if I needed a substitute, I can't think of a better one than James over there.
Oh.
Is that
would be
Roger?
that would be my pick over there.
Roger, are you here?
Yeah,
Do you
yeah, he's
wonder why-
here. After saying that, he's here.
Yeah, right. Do you ever wonder? I came in late. Do you ever wonder why Bub had audio issues earlier? I mean, maybe that's a sign of some sort.
Yeah. I try not to talk too much in these videos, but I just hate to leave everyone subject to Roger's rants. So I thought I'd tone it down a little bit. Yeah, break up.
All I do is rant.
That's not all.
You're taking all my material.
I'm sorry. I'll do better. Next week, I'll host a show and I'll have no guests. Just I'll just leave a blank screen and I'll show Hulk Hogan in front of a boat just for about an hour and a half.
Memories.
That's it. This is it. This is all you're gonna get next week.
Yeah.
Just Thunder in Paradise. Soak it in.
If it's on Netflix, I'll try to watch it, and DS and I can compare notes and just probably fall asleep 20 times during it. But
that's your name for next week, Bub. Thunder in Paradise.
Yeah,
we'll have a movie. Maybe we'll have a movie of the week.
That's a good idea, Roger. We may start a new segment. The worst movie you can find on Netflix for the week.
Yeah.
I suggested Thunder in Paradise for you.
Yeah, and then we can take requests from the chat because these guys are fabulous. These guys in the chat are just brilliant. They know their stuff.
Oh yeah,
chat's been awesome tonight.
Yeah, these guys have just been going boom, bah, boom, bah. I mean, it's like one after the other. So
I gotta say, I really enjoy the chat when people are watching our show, and I'm so thankful that so many great people in the community, people who make videos, and of course people who support the community and watch videos, come out to watch us on this show. It's really humbling, and thank you all for being a part of it, and also, I know, and suffering through us. So thank you, Roger. Thanks, Ryan. JPL Flash. Thank you, Crimson Comic. Thanks, DS Comic.
He was here too.
I'm telling you. I'm exhausted.
Sat next to me.
Oh my god. I'm sorry, McD. We totally ignored you.
No, he's not here, mate.
Oh, and I love that Scottish accent. I would have loved to talk to him.
I went up to McDonald's the other day and I ordered a Comics McD and they didn't know what I was talking about.
Take your business somewhere else, man. Take your business somewhere else.
They told me to go to Hardee's, but they didn't understand either. So, all right, guys. DS, thanks for joining and putting up with the antics as usual.
Love it as usual.
So it's the highlight of my week, guys. I really enjoy. It's the comic highlight of my week. So thank you so much.
Likewise.
All right, guys. Well, let's let everybody go, and we'll catch you again next week on the No Faces Comic Chat. Good night.
Night, everybody.